Hello, welcome to this video. I'm going to try and stare into that little dot right there so I don't look like I'm looking away from you. So first of all, great news for Blank Canvas. I managed to get the server set up that allows you to run this real time over your local network, and also that means some incredible things can be done. So first of all, processing power on the computer is a lot more powerful. So I have a server here where if you start up Blank Canvas and you start the server, there'll be a button to say start server. It will give you an IP address and a port number. You're able to access Blank Canvas from any device on your local network. But the problem is that, let's say a device like this is significantly less in computing power. So if I wanted to do something very computer intensive, then I would rather execute that on my desktop, on my laptop, or whatever it is that's serving out. I would rather go with a more powerful computer. So when you do these expensive processors, Blank Canvas will automatically look at all the hardware that's connected. And it will say right now, my laptop that sounds really loud and like a jet engine for some reason, this laptop should be the laptop that executes the code. For example, you want to cut out me from the background. That's quite an expensive computing process. I would rather execute it with something that has better hardware and better graphics capability than this. So this will send the command to my laptop to say, can you do the more expensive computation? It will, and it will spit back the results in real time when it can. Now, we also have video conferencing in Blank Canvas. I talked about this before, where you have me, this window right here, popping up, and you can see everybody, and everybody's talking and collaborating over the document. You can write notes, you can do everything else. But also, in the live stream, you're able to view the hardware profile, so you can look at who's on what device, so PlayStation and so forth. Again, that was already rewritten in there, John's on a phone, Kathy is on a VR headset and so forth, and they all have a color allocated to them. But also with the video conferencing, they actually have the ability to live stream the devices. So if I'm on my laptop and let's say someone else is on their mobile device, I want to be able to screen capture this device, and then I want to be able to view it on my laptop, so I can remotely screen record and screen share. That's nothing new, but it's a nice feature. Web-based environments that trigger on the server. So what's amazing is that you don't need to have Blank Canvas installed. Now there will be an Android application and an iOS application available for you on the native device, which means it gets native access. But let's say you don't have that. Well, once you run Blank Canvas on your local network, your iPad will already have Blank Canvas, because you just go and open up the browser, whether it be Safari or Chrome, and then you would type in the private IP address and the port number. When you do that, you actually get to see the Blank Canvas interface, and you get to execute code on the server. So even though you haven't got native access, you have got native access on the server. So that is what's amazing. So the web-based environment is something that means that you don't have to have the app installed, but if you want to install the app, you'll get more features. For example, you can start executing code on the tablet or on the phone. If you don't, then you'll have a web-based interface that communicates with the server, and the server will output the results to you. So for example, crop this image, move this image, do this. It will do that on the server, and it will deliver it real time to your device. Next up, guys, I'll move over. Sorry, you're being blinded. There's a flare. Next up, you'll be able to file upload, and you'll be able to remotely file upload and download. So I can upload files to other devices once they're connected, as long as you're in the app interface. This won't work through the browser because you won't be allowed that type of access to the file system. But if you install the app, then Blank Canvas on the server can remotely download files. Sometimes it's really great for other people to look through your file system, find out what's what. So it's like a whole digital experience, this. Remote code execution through a terminal. So now with Blank Canvas, we have a terminal interface. So the terminal interface allows you to execute code, just like VS Code, for example. You know VS Code, it has an integrated terminal, Sublime Text, integrated terminal. Well, obviously Blank Canvas will have an integrated terminal, one For the server that serves out real-time data, you want to be able to look at the real-time data. You want to be able to know if the server's running or not, know what it's executing, look at the messages that are outputted. And that's going to help me debug it as I program it. Now, don't forget, I have got that server set up. But what's great about Blank Canvas is now we can start to execute code, whether that be JavaScript code or regular terminal code. And what I can do is say, right, all these different devices have different API sets. They have all different compatibilities with code. We know this, and it's a minefield. So what I thought about was, what if I could, from the server, execute code on other devices? For example, this device. Now, of course, it needs your permission. It's not just going to do that out of the blue, but you're assuming that when you hook up to other people, you know who those people are, and you're authenticating with those people. But what's amazing about Blank Canvas is the fact that it will allow you to remotely execute from here. So I type in a command on my laptop, it executes those commands on the given devices that are connected. So I can see whether this JavaScript code is compatible in this browser or compatible on this device, whether it be the Oculus headset device, whether it be a mobile device, whether it be a tablet device. But that's called remote code execution. It literally allows us to execute lines of code from the server on any one of the connected local devices. It will also let you interface through code playpen. So for example, you can run a section of code on a device, you can record it. So for example, if you want an animation or you want something to run and you want to see if it's compatible on that device, it will show you. It's not just text output, it can also be visual output. You can look at how that device executes. For example, let's say I start coding a view component and I want to know if that view component is compatible with my Huawei device. If it is, then what I can do is remotely execute the code here. It will run the code temporarily and it will allow me to view the output, whether it errors, whether it works. If it works, what did it look like on my server? This is all actually very easy stuff to do. It's not too difficult. I mean, I would say that, but fingers crossed, I've already got the server set up, and that's the key part of the application. You can add notes directly. You can tag people in the notes. You can look at other networks, for example. And what's really great about notes is you can have notes now, when I get notes obviously working. The reason I want notes working first is because I want some viability. You know, why would you install Blank Canvas? Well, at the moment you wouldn't, because all that interface and everything else is, well, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of investment, and hopefully I can get a community together, or I could get an investor to hopefully come in. But the point is, it's going to take a very long time. Whereas I want feasibility for the application now. Why would you want to install Blank Canvas now, today? Well, ideally, just for notes. It's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It'll also be available, obviously, throughout your local devices. I also want to come up with a cloud platform where you purchase cloud space if you want to share it out. You can share it on your own server, of course, if you have your own server. But if you haven't, then you can just click a button and it will upload your notes or upload your artboards and everything else to the cloud, and then it's accessible to everybody. It's important to note that Blank Canvas is the server is obviously free just from you starting it up and starting the server on your computer, and it will take care of everything. But it is not the same as if you were to make that accessible to the world. If you did, you'd have to expose your personal computer to the world. You'd have to secure it like a server. And you have to do port forwarding. You have to reconfigure your router. Very expensive, very time consuming. But obviously that is your choice. You can do whatever you like with Blank Canvas. But at certain points, you have to pay for services such as cloud sharing. You know, someone has to pay for the server, you're paying for infrastructure. And, you know, Blank Canvas is supposed to be profitable for everybody. So you got assets for sale, you've got server space for sale, you know. There's a whole range of products that need to be paid for. We are just making everything else that you don't need to pay for free. Okay, so you can add notes directly. As I've mentioned, a full web interface. So when you launch Blank Canvas, you don't need to install Blank Canvas on your tablet or your phone. Okay, literally all you have to do is type in the private IP address and you type in the port number and you will literally see the blank canvas interface boot up on your device. And it will give you certain native accesses and so forth. So the web interface is really, really special. Now, this last point is political, so ignore it. I've given you a little update on blank canvas. I've got the Feather servers working. By the way, if you do go to the GitHub, it's the develop branch that's working, not the master branch. I'm going to re-merge them. But anyway, on a side note, I'd like to talk about the US trade sanctions. For example, Venezuela was in danger of losing Adobe software. So I think was some other European countries. Obviously, Venezuela is South America, but some European countries also were under threat of sanctions for the fact that Adobe is a US-based company. And Donald Trump created some sanctions. Now, he did allow them to trade with Venezuela. But this shows you how politics comes into software and the trading of that software and making money from that software. You see, there are no trade sanctions with open software. It's literally impossible. You can't have that level of control over open and free software because it's open, the source code is available, it's freely distributable. And also, it's the only one that will allow you a full web interface. Okay, you can literally boot up blank canvas and literally not have to install it on your tablet or mobile. No other application can do this. No other application is going to do that because it's not profitable for Adobe. Okay, Adobe need to sell you big software suites with lots and lots of different products, which just end up being a cluster of reproducible code. But even then, there are larger issues at stake, which is managing such a big code base. Then there is the fact that they're charging you more for replicated code, and also the fact that the US government can sanction Adobe so that they can't even trade in your country. So you have literally no creative software in your country. Now, that is a terrible thing to do to anybody's economy. And this is why now people are starting to understand the importance of software licensing and how things are traded and what you need to do. Now, the most damage they could do to blank canvas is say, Lawrence, you have to take down your art store or whatever, but I can still actually have a website where anybody can purchase my art store. I'm not shipping necessarily a product to it. But that's the worst. And then someone can set up a server in Venezuela and literally make money by creating a port of blank canvas and then putting their store in there. I mean, obviously, I do want all the money to go to the community and to developing the software in one console. If you fragment this community already and you want to frag it, you want to explode it, that's one way. But obviously that's not going to get the job done and we're not going to make a lot of profit. So I'd like people to stick with me, the creator of the idea, and then also bring that forward. And I've also seen my ideas start to come out in things like XD and other things in Adobe products. Clearly they're watching, clearly they're listening, and clearly they are copying, which I have no issue with people copying, but I do have an issue with their patents. Some of their patents are very sketchy. And I don't necessarily like the fact that they've done that. But this just shows you that governments can get involved in software trading, and open software like Linux and other things like that, they can't get involved with. You can't stop a community. You can't even bring a RICO case. A RICO case is where if you have a gang and there's one gang member, you can sue all the gang members. Well, this is a community, not a gang, so it can't be under the same law. And also, you can't do a class action lawsuit because how are you going to sue an entire community of people, and who's done what, and how many people have contributed to such and such a project, and how responsible are they for that? Obviously, I'm the main responsibility, but how could you honestly find out who's responsible for what code and what feature? It's just nearly impossible. Microsoft tried it with the GNOME Shell project, and they failed miserably because they turned around and said to Microsoft, how on earth can you sue a community of people, a community of devs? And so it ended up, the entire case ended up on its backside. So it's really disappointing to see big companies no longer being the tech innovators that they used to be. And also the fact that politics is now getting itself involved in this, and the fact that big companies are replicating code, creating larger and larger software suites, but that is not profitable to the end user, nor is it more competitive for the end user. So I think that this is where things have to stop. We have to say, right, what is really the future of software? Is the future of software endless baggages of suites, and you have to, and I say suites, endless baggages of, this massive suite of software, and you're paying nearly £1,000 a month, £2,000 a month in a studio? The way I look at it is, you could hire other people with that money. It doesn't all need to be consolidated into one. And this is also a larger scale, taking on some of the other big boys. Apple and Microsoft have had a monopoly with the creative software with Adobe, and they've completely ignored Linux. And the fact that they say, well, people on Linux want everything for free, is utter nonsense. Autodesk Maya, which is one of the most expensive pieces of software in the world, runs on Linux, and a lot of Pixar runs on Linux, especially the render farms. It is absolutely trash when they say that people on Linux won't pay for software. I run Linux software. I will pay for software when I feel that that software is adequate and decent and quality driven. So quite frankly, this is a load of horse crap from them. They just want to come up with endless amounts of excuses not to give us the freedom to make our choices on operating systems, not to give us the freedom to make the choice of which devices, not to give us the freedom to share entire interfaces across a local network completely free. And this is the only application that will do it. It's not viable for Adobe to do that, because if they share the interface, you're not purchasing, for example, a license per machine. So they don't want to share a web interface. They don't want to share and open and create on the same level. And our licensing lets us do that as well. If it's proprietary licensing, they can't share that interface, because technically they have said this software is non-redistributable. Well, if you boot this up and create a server, technically you're breaking a proprietary license, because you're sharing the interface over your local network. And if you accidentally share that, well, I don't see how I can accidentally do it, but let's say someone's got port 80 open on their computer and you accidentally share it, then you could be sued by these proprietors for actually redistributing their interface illegitimately. So this is what I'm saying. Any way these big companies can trap people is bad. And this is what's happening. So guys, if you're still listening, you're clearly interested in this project, go and take a look at Blank Canvas. Please do remember though, when you download the GitHub, go to the develop branch. That's the one that I'm working on, and I'm trying to make it more easier for people to set up. I'm going to come up with a nice list of instructions and things like that. But we have got the Feather server working, and that runs the core part of the application, and that's really important to me. So guys, thank you for watching, and please feel free to get in contact with me on Facebook, which my name is Lawrence Turton, and get in contact. Also, I'm on LinkedIn, Lawrence Turton from Nottingham. Okay, I've got my big ugly face on there, so you should be able to find me. I'm from Nottingham, so hopefully you'll be able to find me. But the point is that with Blank Canvas and with what we're doing, is making a free and open society, which is far better than the proprietary alternative, which is going to lock you in, control you to subscriptions and lock you in. Whereas I don't think that they deserve that money. I believe people who create assets deserve money. I mean, obviously we deserve money as programmers, but that's where that whole bounty thing comes into it. I want to get paid, but I also want to set up the base plate, the foundation for people to create using this software. It's very important that we create the basic structure of the software, and then we can all build together the tools and the properties and the interface in a unified, cohesive way, rather than squabbling and arguing over it. And I don't want this to be an open source project that becomes extremely fragmented where no one's developing on it anymore. So I want to be the core guy in the community where I'm always developing, I'm always coming up with new ideas, listing them out here and sharing them with you. And remember, you heard it here first. All these other patents are absolute nonsense, and patents are on an idea, not just what you create. And you can't patent these ideas now because it's all out, it's all open, And even if you did, the quashability of that patent, you just wasted thousands of pounds in lawyers' fees, thousands of pounds in registering a stupid patent that clearly is, well, already been thought of.